Alright guys, so now that we have Gulp installed on our computer, everything's good to go. What I want to do now is I want to show you guys how to set up a project to use Gulp. So the very first thing I want you guys to do is just go ahead and create an empty directory and create it anywhere on your computer. It doesn't really matter. And this is just a folder that we're going to be putting all of our source code in, all of our HTML files, our CSS, our pictures, basically the start of a website or some web app. So again, I just made this, I called it sample, and there's nothing inside here whatsoever. So that's going to be our starting point. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead and from PowerShell, just navigate to that location. So cd curly for, I don't even know what this thing is called, a tilde, I guess, to navigate to home. And mine is in my desktop, and I believe it's in a folder called projects and sample. So again, this sample directory is the one I created. Nothing inside it whatsoever, no HTML files, nothing at all. So the very first thing that you should always do whenever you're starting a project is type npm init. This means you want to initialize or start a new project. Now all this command is going to do is basically going to create a package.json file. And this is just a single JSON file, and it's nothing special really. All it has is information about your website or whatever project you're working on. So you usually want to take the time and actually fill this out properly, but for right now I'm just going to kind of skim through it. What's the name of your project? Usually it'll be something like The New Boston. I'm just going to name this sample, and all the rest of these you can kind of just hit enter. Version 1 looks good. Description, don't really have time. This is going to be something like a website about programming or something like that. Enter, enter, just hit enter for the rest of these. And yada, yada, yada. All right, so is this okay? Just go ahead and hit yes, and boom, roasted. So now let me go ahead and hop back in my IDE, and I want to show you guys this. So what it did is it created this file right here. Actually, let me go ahead and pause and bump up this font a little bit. Alright guys, so hopefully you can see that a little bit better. And as you can see, all this file is, if you're unfamiliar with it, is just some basic information about your website or your project. So nothing really Gulp related. So what we want to do now is we want to actually add Gulp to our project. So how do we do that? Well, go ahead back in your terminal, and let me clear this out. Now, in order to install Gulp on your project, it's really easy. Type npm install Gulp, and again, make sure that you are in this directory right here, because it's going to set up a Gulp project from wherever you are. So make sure you're not like on your root hard drive or anything like that. So npm, I want to install Gulp, and you also want to put --save -dev. So go ahead and hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and take some time, and you're going to get some warnings, and these aren't anything to worry about. They aren't like error messages or anything like that. They're just a few warnings saying, hey, you kind of skimmed over all of this whenever you were filling out your information. You didn't set up a proper repository or anything like that. But again, they aren't errors, so don't freak out. No big deal. So what you see now is your package.json file. It was kind of thin before. Now what it has is this line of code. This is one of your most important ones. So it has dev dependencies, Gulp, and then the version number. So again, whenever you just ran that command, let me clear this out, show you guys a little bit better. What you did is you said, hey, in this directory, I want to install Gulp, and I also want to save it as a development dependency. So what these are basically things that you need in order to work on this website. So the reason that you have them is because if you ever share this with someone else, or if you're ever working on this project as a team, then they can just say, hey, in order to work on this website, this is a list of things that I need. And our list is pretty thin right now, just Gulp, but that's basically what it is. Now, another thing that it did is, as you can see, it downloaded and created this right here, node modules. So usually whenever you're making a website, you're going to have a bunch of these modules, And the one that we can see is Gulp. And again, a node module is just like a new kind of tool that you can use to help you develop websites. So we can see bin, which is pretty much this information, and Gulp, which is what we're going to learn in this tutorial series. So again, we created a basic file, and then we installed Gulp, which added it as a dependency in our information file, and actually installed all of the source code for Gulp, as we can see it right there. So now that all the hard stuff is taken care of, let's go ahead and actually set up our website. Since, I mean, we are web developers, that's kind of the point of what we're trying to do. So you can set up your website however you want. Gulp doesn't require you have a certain structure, but just for this tutorial series, I'm going to set up a really basic structure. So I'm going to click on my root directory, and I'm going to make a new folder called app. And I'm also going to make another directory called dist for distribution. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to make a bunch of files like I'll show you guys a bunch of examples like how to convert SCSS or less to plain old CSS, and how you can, I don't know, maybe have JavaScript and how you can minimize it or minify it so it makes your website load a little bit faster. Basically, any of the source code that I write in this tutorial series is going to go in app. Now, whenever I run it through Gulp or any special tool, the results or the final files, they are going to go in dist. So all of these files right here are going to be automatically generated, and we are going to be writing the files inside app. So that's how I'm going to set it up. Now, just so I can organize this a little bit better, inside app, I just want to make a new directory called CSS. And, well, I probably need a home page, so index.html, always a good idea to have a home page. And one other thing I want to do is I want to create a new directory called SCSS. So again, the SCSS is, if you guys aren't really familiar with SCSS or SAS, then don't really worry about it. You guys are going to be able to follow along anyways, but I'm going to be writing it in here. It's going to be converted into CSS here, and then we'll go ahead and minify it. Don't do that. And put it in dist. So again, I'm just setting up a basic website. Now that we got my structure taken care of, I want to do one more thing, and that is right click your root directory and hit new JavaScript file. Now this is actually really important. Name this one gulp file.js, and it already has that JS extension. And all right, so in order to use Gulp, what you do is you actually need to give it a bunch of commands or instructions. So all of the instructions that we give it are going to be inside this file right here. So that's what we're going to be doing in the next video, actually learning finally how to tell Gulp what to do. It's going to be awesome. I'll see you guys then.